What is it?
What is it? Why, lovely lady, it's a tribble.
A tribble?
Action.
It's been 30 years since fans of the original Star Trek series first witnessed the invasion of the troublesome Tribbles.
Aye, they're into the machinery, all right.
Now they're back, and the crew of Deep Space Nine must travel back in time to save Captain Kirk and his crew from a devious plot that could alter history.
It's like visiting somebody's family reunion, and you're kind of a guest. You kind of know people.
After we finished that, they kept popping up everywhere, all over the set. Every now and then you open a drawer or something in the room, and here's a Tribble.
You get to reach back 30 years and shake hands, almost physically, and I think that's a beautiful thing.
State-of-the-art special effects technology allows the two crews to interact in ways never before seen on television. It's an all-out tribute, honoring 30 successful years of the Star Trek saga.
I really can't wait to see this new cast interacting with the old cast. I think it's going to be something else.
The SyFy channel presents this exclusive behind-the-scenes look at the historic making of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Trials and Tribbilations. The Tribbles episode always ranked as a favorite among the fans, and when the original writer David Gerrold saw the results of his big break in television, he wasn't quite sure what to think.
I didn't know if it was any good or not. I honestly did not. And it was all over, and my friend said, "Boy, that was pretty good. That was terrific." And I said, "Well, yeah, but it's only one episode of one TV show." And I literally said, 20 years from now, who's going to remember it?
The process of bringing this high-tech episode from concept to script to screen proved to be one of the Deep Space Nine team's biggest challenges.
I had the notion of doing this Forrest Gump thing. I mean, I thought, what bigger treat would it be than to go back into the past and board the original Enterprise and have a mission there. And Ron immediately said, it's got to be The Trouble with Tribbles. It has to be The Trouble with Tribbles. It's the most popular show. It's got to be a comedy. It's got to be a romp.
We were in a pizza joint in Beverly Hills. We were talking about Tribbles, and I said, well, you know, the only guy from the Tribbles episode who we could probably get would be Charlie Brill. I think, you know, he's still around, still acting.
I think I'm the only person that they brought back from the original episode because I think I'm the only one alive.
And as I said that, I looked over to my left, and there at the counter was Charlie Brill and his wife, Mitzi Green.
To be asked back to a show that has this kind of stature, it's being asked to make history again.
And it was like, you know, music, lights, you know, da-da-da-dum, you know, Close Encounters. It was like, this is it.
The production team had a clear vision of what they sought to accomplish, but there was still a question of whether it could be done.
Juxtaposing the two series, we had to give it a lot of thought. We were aware that the eyes of the fans were on us, and that this one, you know, we couldn't mess this up.
We didn't want to do something unless it was going to be really special.
They did a brilliant job writing us into this whole thing.
We made a decision early on that as we do this, we're not going to sort of change their story. We're not going to change the story of The Trouble with Tribbles.
It goes in line in time because the whole idea of us being there is to stop somebody from changing time.
This is definitely going to be a classic episode because we're piggybacking ourselves onto a classic episode. It is an incredibly clever concept.
Action. Odo brought out a Tribble, and I go, oh, Tribbles. You know, here we go again.
I'm sorry about that, little fella. Who left you out here all alone?
We have magically put characters who they've gotten to know in the last few years and intertwined them. There's something charming about that.
It's a little like those science fiction stories where someone finds himself in a historic sort of situation back in time.
We can never really step in and meet Kirk. We could meet Shatner, but we can't meet Kirk. Of course, Kirk only exists inside people's television sets.
It has been noted and logged. Kirk out.
Our characters, Cisco and the rest can.
Captain, may I ask where you'll be?
Sick bay with a headache.
To fully illustrate the range of their abilities, the show's special effects wizards created an amazing demonstration of just how real their illusions could be.
I'll never forget, Gary Hutzel came over one day with some footage that he had shot that was basically just, I don't even remember who it was, but it was somebody standing in a Starfleet uniform, like one of those red shirt security uniforms, and they had put him into a scene from The Trouble with Tribbles of Kirk walking onto the bridge. And it shows us this scene, and it turns to us and says, what do you think? And we just went, what? What are you talking about? This is, yeah, it's a clip from Trouble with Tribbles. He said, And he just kind of looked at us like we were insane. He backed up the tape and he said, well, you see this guy?
I put him in there.
He doesn't belong there. He's one of us. And we're like, oh, man, you know?
Coming up, the painstaking process of authentically recreating the look of the original Star Trek series, from the makeup and costumes to the props and staging. All next as the making of Deep Space Nine, Trials and Tribbilations continues. For the crew of Deep Space Nine to travel back in time and save Captain Kirk and the Enterprise, the original starship had to be recreated inside and out.
The Enterprise is absolutely authentic to the original, which is in the Smithsonian, which is 11 feet long. The one that we use for this show is 5.5 feet, exactly 1/2 scale. Every color that you'll see, every detail on the ship that you'll see, right down to the small, almost invisible numbers on the hull of the ship, are absolutely authentic and identical to the original.
We want the audience to believe not just that we found a clever way to cut back and forth between two pieces of film, between our guys saying one thing and then them saying something else. We wanted you to believe that we'd actually gone back to the Enterprise.
Die. This is from a different episode.
This is great, just seeing the original series Enterprise. I have a model of that ship in my office I built when I was 13, and so I'm wandering around the stage looking at this and comparing. I did get the gray right, and I didn't quite get that detail right back then.
Recreating the interior of the Enterprise was no easy task either. It had to be perfect.
What was great was we were supposed to react to it like, wow, we're on the Enterprise. And it was easy because it felt like, wow, we're on the Enterprise. It looks so real. What should we do?
Get to battle stations.
Dax is basically a stand-in for Renee and I, because we were such big fans of this series, that Dax wanders around the Enterprise and is just really grooving on all of it. She loves the uniform, she loves the equipment.
Our biggest problem was just matching things, but it was just a hoot.
If you revisit the original Enterprise, people know that. They know it intimately. Even if they can't describe to you the details, they've seen it for 30 years, and they'll know instantly if that shade of yellow was wrong or that pipe is a little too big.
We did find some original floor plans, but everything else we did by scanning blown-up photographs from stock footage.
Lieutenant Uhura, how did all these Tribbles get on the bridge?
We're going backwards in a way because we don't do things quite as simply as they did them in those days.
We've come a long way since 1960s, since the 60s, as far as all the technology on the spaceship. And as you can see around here, well, these are very elaborate sets. And the old Star Trek, they just threw a rug and they put a little TV screen there and said it was a computer.
Like a plastic chair with some aluminum legs, and that's like the future.
The show didn't have enough money at the time. The chairs don't even swivel. And they don't swivel on this set.
Ironically, some of the props in the original series were so simple, they were hard to duplicate.
They made us tricorders and they added lights to them, but we can't turn the lights on because the original series never had lights on theirs.
What's the difference in the tricorders?
So they almost went, in a couple instances, a little too far to make it too advanced. They weren't there yet.
This is the old tricorder. You want to look inside? You can probably see yourself in there. We can pick up anything but cable.
Well, it's the old style phaser from Captain Kirk. They had the other phaser on top, the small one. When we started our show, we came out with these, the new version. This one was just Velcroed on the hip. And now these are right to the side of the belly. It fits much more comfortable.
There's a Colomini, for example, was working with one of the original communicators. They were the flip beam me up Scotty communicators, which we all did as kids. And he was trying to make it work, and he couldn't make it work yesterday. And suddenly a hand came from off camera, picked it up, and said, "This is how you do it." Floop. We looked around, it was Walter Koenig.
He won't bite, will he?
The other thing that everyone really got into a lot, and it's even in the episode, is, as you can see, is the idea of putting our people in those old costumes.
It's really fun. I mean, from having false eyelashes and I have a beehive hairdo, down to having go-go boots and a mini skirt, which, let me tell you, it's pretty mini.
The women had the black eyeliner that is the whole extension of the lid and drawn out in the long Egyptian type of a look.
I like to go into bars with this hairdo now. It makes me look more mature.
The sideburns are broader and they're heavier. their makeup was heavier on their faces. They were greasier looking.
Klingon! Can I interest you in a harmless little Tribble? Get it away from me.
Tribbles don't like Klingons. We'll see if this is a real Klingon outfit.
Oh, this is original. This is the original. This is original pants. This is original tank top. And these are replicas because this stuff wouldn't last over the 30 years.
It's just large bubble wrap, painted, and we've acted on a piece of leather, and we have it to Velcro onto the belt so we can clean it. But that's the Klingon belt.
The guy who plays Cyrano Jones had on this trader's outfit, and I have been given hell for the last couple of days because I play almost the same type of character that they played back in the 60s.
It's not like he's walking around with his turtle head showing.
Well, it looks like a cross between a pirate and an English cleaning woman.
You're really in the, you're in the original makeup, the original costume. It's like going to a great ball and dressing up any kind of way you like. You're a kid at Halloween.
Worf definitely does not like to wear this stuff.
After 30 years, even the Tribbles needed a little primping.
Yeah, this one looks kind of scrunchy. Perhaps maybe a little water and we can...
Fluff it.
Yeah.
Coming up, the special effects team gives us a sneak peek at the amazing process that allowed the Deep Space Nine crew to travel back in time. Deep Space Nine's award-winning special effects team faced their biggest challenge, bringing the two Star Trek eras together digitally.
A key element of the show, of course, was the visual effects, and whether we would successfully be able to marry our characters with the original characters with film footage that was shot 30 years ago. I felt immediately that we could. I felt very comfortable in approaching this, and I was dying to do the show.
Hey, you're pretty hot.
When the special effects team went back to the original film footage, they found some big surprises.
Since that episode was last transferred off the original negative, the technology has improved so much that looking at the original film now again, they were able to see detail that they had never seen before. You can actually see coffee stains on Spock's uniform that were never seen in any of the original transfers until now.
The writers faced the challenge of figuring out exactly where the Deep Space Nine crew could beam aboard the Enterprise.
You're going through every scene, trying to find that moment that you need where it's, Kirk and Spock and anyone else we could get are sitting in the right place and saying kind of the right thing that we can use. We just kept looking over the Tribbles show and saying we can use that scene, and how about, taking that character out and putting O'Brien in his place.
We actually did it all blue screen, so it was extraordinary. We were kind of imagining what it would be like playing to them. The extraordinary part about that show was the sets were exact replicas of the sets. The lighting was exactly the same, and obviously the wardrobe and all that. Our spacesuits were exactly the same. So it was kind of, when you got on the set, it was kind of like time traveling. You were kind of like caught in a time warp. This is like we were back in the 60s.
This sequence is after the barroom fight, and Kirk has the whole lineup of the people who were involved in the fight.
I want to know who started it. I'm waiting.
My goal is to take O'Brien and replace this character here with O'Brien. O'Brien was shot on green screen, and black and white matte was generated from that green screen, allowing me to then place O'Brien on top of the old character. The next stage will be a rotomatte, a black and white matte similar to O'Brien, to follow Captain Kirk's outline, so that way Captain Kirk will be placed then on top of O'Brien.
Who started the fight?
I don't know, sir.
All right. Chekhov. I know you. You started it, didn't you?
No, sir, I didn't.
Well, who did?
I don't know, sir.
I don't know, sir. I want to know who threw the first punch.
Every move had to be perfectly choreographed, or the scene wouldn't work.
Dismissed.
Poor Terry is standing on a green screen platform, against a green screen with no way of seeing where she is in the scene or what's going on, with a C-stand with a card on it saying, okay, here's Kirk at number 1, and then after you turn around, he'll be over here because the plate is moving. So Kirk's position moves. Getting the timing to work on that was very demanding.
The cast of Deep Space Nine was excited to be aboard the Starship Enterprise, working alongside the original crew.
When we were shooting it, I had to do it in a blue screen, and I saw them, the old video of them moving by, and then I saw myself sitting there on the monitor in blue screen, and I just couldn't resist it when they rolled the camera. I went, hey, Chekhov! Hey, it's me! I'm over here! It's Odo!
They wrote it so Dax is having a lot of fun being there. She's loving it. She wants to go say hi to people, and isn't this great? And she's losing track of the mission more than anybody else. So I think my character is really more the audience's point of view. My character's like, come on, let's go see what else is around here. Let's go say hi to Kirk. And Sisko's like, no, that's not why we're here. I'm like, come on, are you out of your mind? It's Kirk.
This is my chicken sandwich and coffee. Fascinating.
When Scotty starts this barroom brawl, the Deep Space Nine crew jumps in, but first they had to learn how to throw the cowboy-style punches of the 60s television era.
The one thing we noticed that in the old footage, if you would put cowboy hats on the actors and guns and cowboy boots, that's what their punches look like. They're just big Western punches, and they're wailing away, and there's even a few misses in there that they let slip in. So what we have to do is try to mimic that style.
I think the fighting scenes are going to be better because I saw the clip of the old fighting scene, and you can totally see the misses. I can guarantee you with Worf and O'Brien and Bashir and Odo, there won't be any misses happening.
If we were doing the nowadays fights, we would have Chris would throw a punch and I would block it, and I would use modern hits like a strike to the face, or a backhand, or headbutt, or a strike through here, elbows, and a palm shot through the face. What we have to do now is all big Western punches, which is through here, and for that camera it would be just a big roundhouse, and it'd be these kind of punches.
What I'm working on right now is this particular shot here where these two guys were shot on green screen. And this is a previous episode shot, I think, in '67. And I'm putting him over the background and adding in the shadows to try and make them look as realistic as possible. So what I've done is I've thrown shadows, look and see where the shadows are on, say, the legs of the chairs, see what directions they go, and put them on these guys. So that's what I've come up with. I slowly added the shadow here to the left, as you can see. And it's a really slow process. And this scene is only 88 frames long, which might last like 3 seconds.
There are hundreds of details had to be dealt with by all departments simultaneously, so it would all come together in post. That was a real logistical challenge.
It was never a time when we had something we were enamored of that we couldn't do.
They recaptured the essence of 1967 with the great technology of 1996.
Coming up, you'll hear what the original cast members think about this historic 30th anniversary episode. The making of Trials and Tribbilations was a long and complicated process, but the way the furry creatures make people feel is simple.
I hope they come back.
The end of the century is going to kind of be the year of the Tribble.
Not only are they multifunctional and make great actors, but they also make great puffs to take off excess powder off the face.
And they're soothing. I want these things off the ship. I don't care if it takes every man we've got. I want them off the ship.
You got to be careful with these Tribbles. They're pretty terrible rascals if you let them get ahead of you, That's why I send them to the Klingons.
I'd love to do a story sometime where we find out just what kind of a planet Tribbles came from.
Well, don't look at me. It's the Tribbles who are breeding. And if we don't get them off the ship, we're going to be hip deep in them.
At the time I did the script, I wrote in that they were born pregnant.
Well, the nearest thing I can figure out is that they're born pregnant, which seems to be quite a time saver.
I sort of made that up.
I get the feeling that there's a big cat somewhere around coughing these things up, because I have no idea where their eyes and nose and mouth is.
The way Star Trek fans keep proliferating like Tribbles, I know that we're going to be around for the golden anniversary of Star Trek.
The casts and crews of all of the space series are honored to be a part of making television history.
I think the original Star Trek series is truly a bit of Americana. Whether you know that show or not, you know what that show is about.
We all grew up watching the show, and we were all big fans. So to be able to do this is just an enormous treat and privilege, really.
Every department knew this is special, and I think you see that in what everyone has done.
It's just great television. You know, it's one of those things where, just like with any show that's popular on television, you can't wait to get home, turn it on, watch it, and skate for a while.
And they're quick to pay homage to the man who created what's become a universal phenomenon, Gene Roddenberry.
So he would love the Tribble show. I think with the new technology, I mean, he was so creative in the time period he was in.
He had such a good idea to begin with, and he was quite aware that he had created something that now has a life of its own.
When he sees it, he's going to love it.
The Star Trek saga continues to make television and movie history by conjuring up extraordinary images of the future as we'd like it to be.
The Good Trouble with Tribbles is a very good story. You know, it's fun, it's exciting, it makes you smile, it has a heart. It was nice to be able to marry the two and find how easily they did kind of go together, that it really was, this is our ancestor, and it was a comfortable mix to match the two creations of Trek together.
Star Trek deals with the potential of man's spirit. It deals with a very uplifting message that the future is a better place to be, that people in future centuries will be better off than we are. And I think when you live in times where there's a lot of hopelessness and there's a certain degree of despair in the world, that being able to see something that shows a brighter future is attractive to people.
I think I've got it. All we have to do is quit feeding them. We quit feeding them, they stop breeding.